Generally, we have a speaker for about an hour or hour and a half, and you are the first speaker we have called for 3 days, and they are thinking, how boring will that be? This is what it tells me. So I said, listen, you spent all this money, flown me over here to do this, better suffer through for 3 days. I said, I'll ask you how it was at the end of the 3 days. Until that time, I'm not saying anything. He said, that's fair enough. We started the first day, and the end of the day, there were 25 participants who reported that this course should have been taught to all the members of their family, as well as, so the training director comes to me and says, generally they say things like, teach it to top management, teach it to top management, not to us. Now they are talking about something completely different. So I kept quiet. Now, on the first day, I requested, I said, I want to see a refinery because I have never known what a refinery is, nor do I know anything about it. So they thought the guy is just asking, so they didn't pay any attention. Second day, I repeated my request. Still, they didn't attend to it. Third day, I said, listen, Mr. Gopal Krishnan, I would like to see the refinery. I've been requesting you for 2 days. He said, I just thought you were just casually mentioning it because no management consultant here so far has requested us to see the refinery. Best one guy he wanted to see LPG gas cylinder. And I said, I don't even know what LPG gas cylinder is. So he spells it. I said, what does it stand for? I told him, I'm absolutely ignorant. I said, what does LPG stand for? So he tells me liquid petroleum, whatever. So I said, I see. So then we come out, and he assigns me an engineer who will give me a tour of the refinery. So I come out and I observe that everybody is wearing a helmet. So I look at the guy, engineer, I said, am I not supposed to wear a helmet? He said, would you really wear it? He was surprised. Here is a guy in kurta pajama who wants to wear a helmet. So he said, would you really wear it? I said, it's a requirement, I'll put it on. So so they gave me a helmet, and I started walking around. And which means I took active interest, that I was really keen. I went, and I learned a lot. They took me to this big furnace, and you're supposed to see through this only with particular kinds of glasses, otherwise you lose your eyesight. And they were interested in showing me afterwards because it was I didn't have to go see it. It had nothing to do with my training. And they all executives wear uniform. I say, if I have to come here and teach all your staff, you better issue me 3 pairs of uniform. I said, this is what I'm supposed to do, for the next 3 years, if I'm supposed to come here every month to do this, But the point is, I took active interest. It was not just say, okay, you have a refinery. I didn't have to know it. But this also enthused them. They were interested in showing me. They were interested in talking about their personal things and what it was. So this helps, is what I'm saying. All right? The last question on this list. Oh, there are 2 more. Does a good communicator become a good writer? The answer is writer, he might have to learn some writing skills, but the answer is yes. Some mechanics of writing he might have to master.
So that question comes up because you said spoken language and written
language. It's different. That is correct.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying just some mechanics of the writing you will have to learn. But if your ideas are clear, by good communication, I basically means your ideas are clear and you can put them across. If that is there, lots of people speak their, books on tape recorder and they find some ghostwriter to write them out. Correct. Next is, last one, will this workshop help me to communicate better in other languages besides English? Definitely yes. Because language is just a medium through which we communicate, but the rules or the underlying principles of good communication are the same, in all languages.
Because see, in India, when you count, you'll find majority sort of counting in their vernaculars.
That is correct.
At times we think in Bengali, write in English.
Yeah.
Think in Bengali, talk in English.
Right.
And that's why words like returning back comes up.
That's true, yes.
And so point is, when I'm tuned, say at present I'm tuned to think in English, speak English, and feel English, I would say.
Yeah.
And the same rule, what I'll find very difficult to do is, like yesterday I had an experiment at home and they just sort of say, must have had 5 or 6 packs of whiskeys or something, but it's gone wrong.
Right.
So he said, oh, you come from Oberoi, something's definitely wrong with you.
Yeah. What was the experiment?
I just say, the first thing they said, for once you're trying to listen on the table. Like I was trying to be very attentive and I was trying to be a little specific about me and in Bengali.
I see.
And then he says, okay, leave him alone, like there's something wrong with him today.
Right.
You better go to bed fast. So that's how I feel that, is it possible to say the rules that we learn, not rules, say the techniques. And when I try to just put into any of my, say Hindi, Bengali or Gujarati or anyway.
They will apply in total.
In total.
Yeah, I'll tell you why what happened with you yesterday, it happened for a different reason. I'll tell you why it happened. See, when you change your behavior, people become suspect. See, we are like puppets, as it were, takes away all your autonomy when you think of that metaphor. So you are like a puppet with different strings given to different people. The people who are closest to you, have the thickest strings, as it were. They know precisely what string to pull to make you jump how high. Yeah? So the dialogues that occur between husband and wife, employee and the boss, father and the son, and so on, parent and the children, they are lock and key arrangements, as it were. They are patterns that keep on occurring day after day after day in the drama of life. So what happens? When, suppose lots of people who attend my courses on relaxation and stress management. Now their habit pattern is to go home every day and wife says, how are you today? So it was a long day at the company, and I was working very hard, and so many meetings I had to attend to, and I feel very, very tired. She said, okay, get into some comfortable clothes and I'll make you some snacks and a hot cup of tea. So he changes and settles down on a sofa, and the tea is prepared and comes to him. He attends my course, he feels very positive, he's very relaxed, goes home, and his wife says, how are you today? He said, I feel fine. So what? What's wrong with you? Because suddenly she feels unemployed. It's because that was a reaction, that was a pattern every day. When you change, you're putting demands on others to change. And they have not opted for it. They have not attended my course yet. You see the point? Huh? So Rushi principle 2, write it down. I gave you Rushi principle 1 yesterday. Rushi principle 2. Remember we talked about attributes, that was the first principle for changing. Now when you decide to change, the people who are closest to you may put barriers in your way because they have emotional investment in you.
Because?
They have emotionally invested in you, or because they have emotional investment in you. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Hmm? Oh, because there is a tie-up with you. If you tell your son, why did you do this way? He says, I'm sorry, Dad. That makes you feel better. That he was guilty and he apologized. Suddenly he becomes assertive and he says, I felt like doing it. How do you feel about that?
Something has changed.
That's right? So that you don't like it, because it somehow you say, what is mean? Bad manners? What is he doing? You wouldn't appreciate that he's becoming straightforward for a change, right? So your emotion, there is emotional investment. It gives you some payoff when you say it in a particular way, and his response gives you the payoff. When a father says, don't drop the coffee cup, and kid drops it, instead of feeling bad, he feels good that he was right. He says, see what I told you? Make sense?
Yeah.
So that's that pattern. So what I suggest, what would have been better? What I suggest that you take those people into confidence. Had you gone there yesterday and said, listen folks, I know I just realized something after attending this course in communication, that I have not been attentive to what you've been saying, and it is my fault, and I've decided to change certain things, and I'll appreciate if you help me through the process.
That was the disaster, exactly.
Yeah.
He says, what nonsense is he talking?
Yeah, because they don't trust you. As I said, they become suspicious that now he's they're another ploy or something. And that's true, that happens. You know, like management suddenly wants to help labor, you know, labor becomes suspicious. You know? What is this? You know?
It's just from when did he become a good boy sort of a thing. Like
Yeah, you know, that's why. So you have to establish your credibility in the new behavior. It takes time.
Yeah, the best thing is they should read the book.
So there's a transition period, you know. When I did counseling, when the people came with marital problem, I always advise them in twos, you know. If somebody comes and says, I want to improve my marriage, I say, forget it, bring your wife, your husband with you. Otherwise, you know, one person changes, instead of bridging the gap, it widens the gap. You see? So that's the problem. So you have to be aware of it. And so be patient about it, don't be impatient, you know, because that will even, you know, undermine the credibility that you might have established. You see? Make sense? Does that answer all your questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
One question is that whatever we learn today and
Yeah.
we also implement in our behavior,
Right.
how long it will last, or whether it will be, it will, you know, require some sort of periodic boost in some form or the
Okay,
other.
once you start practicing it, that practice itself, every time it works, it will reinforce it. If you don't have people who undermine it right in the beginning, that's why I say take them into confidence. You know, that helps. And how long will it last? Depends on your practice and your, you know, seriousness about it. It's perseverance.
Right.
See what happens. The hardest time in changing of any behavior is the period of transition. It's time of transition. Plato, the philosopher, in his parable of the cave, put it beautifully. He said, blindness is of two types. When a person goes from darkness into light, he is temporarily blind. In the same way, when a person goes from light into darkness, he is also temporarily blind. That is a transition period. So when you change from a good habit to a bad one, or from a bad to a good one, there is necessarily a transition period, which time you feel uncomfortable. You see? And that period you must get over if you want to establish a new habit. Like I have a mother. I'm sure all of you have or had one. She's 82 years old. About 6 years back, she comes to me and she says, she lives in Ahmedabad. I'm the youngest. She said, Baba, you know, I've never been on an airplane in my life. You know, could you take me on a plane? Now, this was the easiest thing for me to do. You know, I said, anywhere. I said, where would you like to go? Name a spot in the world and I'll take you there on an airplane. She said, oh, no. I don't want to go far. Just take me from Ahmedabad to Bombay. That's all. So I said, fine. It's the easiest thing for me to do. And something that meant so much to her, I thought, that it was so easy, that thing. So I went and bought 2 tickets instead of 1. When I came to the Ahmedabad airport, we checked in. She had packed a few saris and stuff for spending some days in Bombay. And we checked in the luggage. We were walking towards the airplane. And she says, where is the luggage? Now, this is the first time it occurred to me now what the problem is going to be. Because that reminded me of our conditioning. See, when I was growing up, middle class family in Ahmedabad, the greatest luxury was to come to Bombay once a year as a student. You know, my brother lived here and he will send us the ticket, Janata Express, 11 rupees 40 paisa it costs, overnight journey, standing room only. You know, and we were 4 people, my mother, father, my sister and myself. We will travel by train, you know, and put the luggage under the opposite seat and we'll take turn watching it so nobody steals it, you know. This was the thing. So the suitcase is underneath the opposite, you know, and I'm sleeping and my mother, it's her time to go to sleep, so she nudges me and I wake up and I start looking at the suitcase. And for 3 hours, you know, per person, we took turns to wash the suitcases. Now that was the background. Now after 24 years, you know, away from Ahmedabad, I had forgotten about this, but my mother hadn't. So the first question in her mind is, where is the luggage? And I said, it will be in the airplane. She looks at me and she says, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. You know, so we walk into the plane, get in, put the seat belt on. She puts the seat belt on and she looks underneath the seat. She says, it's not there. I said, no, mother, there is a special place for this, underneath this airplane, it will be there. She said, are you sure? So again, I reassured her, I'm sure. 45-minute journey from Ahmedabad to Bombay. Not for a single second did my mother realize that she was on an airplane. The foremost thought in her mind was, where is my luggage? We get off the plane, she doesn't say anything about that this is the first time she flew and how was it, and she says, where is the luggage? And this is what happens. When you change from one habit pattern to the next one, the old habit has roots in you. You see? It has died hard. So it will pop up. So you have to be extra careful and cautious and aware at all times. It's a moment to moment. It's a very existential process, Moment to moment awareness that you have to go through. Because otherwise, just by sheer force of habit, you will slip into the old habit. So you have to have constant check. Does it make sense? That's the key. Okay. Any other question? Good. Now what I'd like you to do, on that piece of paper where we listed all these things, write down how you plan to achieve all that, what you've written. You've written that you want to do this, that, and the other. What are you going to do? What behavior or what action to achieve what you have written out? Right.
Would you tell us?
Would I tell you? No, you have to decide. So you made some comments there, right?
Yeah, but
How would you go about doing it?
that is the part I thought you should tell. Voice modulation. If I want to improve my voice, what
Well-
I should do.
Well, what do you think you can do? Then we'll talk about it.
I'll ask you, simplest. Attend one of the courses.
Okay, write out what you plan to do. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is again find two people who are still a bit strange to you in the sense of acquaintance and not otherwise, and get together with them. Each person discusses what he has decided with these two people. These two people can offer him or her the feedback about what they feel and how, maybe any suggestion. 5 minutes for each person. Move. Use the whole room. Yeah. Talk about what you have written, what you plan to do about bettering yourself. All right, wrap it up. Wrap it up, folks. Back to your seats. Okay, grounded?
Yes, grounded. This is a joke. When you say grounded, I remember Indian airline airplanes.
Huh.
When they are grounded, the whole schedule gets upset.
True. I mean, Indian Airlines doesn't, the planes don't have to be grounded to get the schedules upset. All right. Now, any highlights that you want to share with the group? Okay.
Looking into the other person.
Huh.
What is the best method? Using goggles?
No, using goggles is the worst method. Because people become suspicious because they don't know when you're looking at them and when you're not. It bothers them. It bothers them, you see.
Or somebody gets scared because that guy may be having conjunctivitis.
Yeah, that's another possibility. Okay. Any other comments? You were saying that I should tell you the answer. Did you find some answers yourself?
Yeah, I did some.
You see? When you start doing it, you realize that what you can do. Huh? Any specific things you want to mention? Yeah.
So, Rushi, I would like to share with the group
Huh?
what we say in management is very appropriate. I just realized my 5 problems that I have, they are the rules in our management. That's how you're supposed to do management consultancy. These are something, the techniques, and today Rushi tells me it's all nonsense. And he has proved it. Like, he says, listen carefully. We have been taught to switch in and switch off. That's the thing we sort of practice very often. Okay, if you want to do marketing, the guy will talk a lot on accounts. You should know how to switch off. And we do it very beautifully with our tie and very politely smiling, ji ha, but basically we are switched off. The moment you come to the main thing, we again switch on. And if you ask me what he said about accounts, I said it was beautiful, but I don't know anything. That is one thing I would like to share. Another thing, be direct, simple and brief. We are never direct because I have to get the business. We are never simple, we mystify. A lot of mystification. And we are never brief because if I give you a 5-page report or a 17-sized report and charge you 10,000, you won't pay me. And the best way I can expand is graphs and
Padding.
a lot of paddings. So we are never brief, neither in conversations, neither in writing. We always detailed writing. And interested depends. Okay, when you should be interested, you know. When you shouldn't be, you know. If you don't want a contract, act snobbish.
So these things might be helpful in management consultancy. If you those spillover you carry into other facets of your life.
What is really right? Marketing is the same fact when we are working on a tender. For a job is worth 5-10 crores. If you give a 20-page offer, you will just simply throw it out.
Yeah,
That's
I
not
understand.
something you make. So we have to make something 200-page volume.
Right.
It may talk all the rubbish later, which you will not appreciate. Recently we got an order from NTPC. The 200 pages, they are simply thrown out. That only is not required. Then what for you asking? Otherwise, how they will justify to their management that this may tender volume will cost so much.
True.
So what you are telling, be brief. In talking with me.
Yeah, what I'm saying, there is a purpose for being long-winded there.
In the marketing, it happens. We have
Right.
to be
I understand.
just show off that we just making something.
Right.
We have to do.
So my suggestion to you, management consultants, is that don't carry over those practices into particularly when you want to learn something new, or in other daily life in your home and with your friends and other people. Don't be a management consultant there.
You see, the main problem is that we don't have the 8-hour work.
Huh.
And we sit over 14 hours a day. And the same person, we meet him outside the office and we meet him in the office. I think so that sort of tunes us
Possible.
in the
I
thing.
would suggest one thing. In these long-winded reports that they have to give, it may be there, but always there should be. It should start with the gist. Those who want to know the sense should have 2 or 3 pages where they should get the sense. Then the whole thing can be an annex, so that you have your report. But if somebody wants to know the sense, he does not have to go through the whole thing and suffer it.
No, we have the gist, but he weighs the report. That's the main problem. We have the gist, but he weighs the report.
Okay. How many companies, people here who hire such people, management consultants? Raise your hand.
Those somebody who want to close down, they may.
That's too much. All right. Any other comments? Anybody? Okay, so, yeah.
As far as the voice modulation and the flow of your speech,
Huh.
if you want to practice, what I thought I would share with the group is, suppose you record your own voice in a tape recorder, which I'm sure everybody will be having, and play it back, and then you come to know what are the difficulties you have faced while speaking. So one can improve upon that by recording your voice.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it. I'll suggest a little modification to your technique, and that is get somebody else to listen to it. Make comments. Because see, if you know the particular piece of information which is contained in the paragraph, when you read it, if you slur on certain words and if you say some things unclearly, you won't hear it because your mind, because you're familiar with the paragraph, fills in the blanks. So if some outsider who is not familiar with the content of the paragraph, he listens to it and says, what is this? I don't hear this word. Does it make sense? So that will be better, for you to do. And change that person or change the paragraph. Every day do a different paragraph. That is for one purpose. For bettering yourself, that is one thing I suggest you do for your voice modulation. We'll do a couple other exercises later on. And one more thing I suggest you do is read one paragraph out of these 5, the same paragraph every day for 1 month. 5 times every day. Same paragraph. Now this is, see, people who are intelligent don't like to do such things, because they find such things drudgery. But if you want to master any art or any skill, you have to do it that way. It's a drilling you must do. So I suggest you do it religiously. And you will notice a tremendous difference between the first day and the 30th day. Just say it loudly, clearly every day, work on it. You'll become familiar with it. Try to express those emotions that are in there. Work at it so you will be able to express, and trying will no longer be there.
Will a mantra substitute this? Can something else?
Yes.
Instead of
Yes. As long as you understand the meanings of those mantras.
is it necessary?
Yes, because then you want to express that through your voice.
Roshi, what about the pronunciation part? Suppose I'm doing it on English passages.
Right.
And this pronunciation is a major problem in India.
Huh.
Even if my voice is good,
Huh.
which is a thing, if you've been listening very carefully to Doordarshan News,
Right.
you'll see a lot of pronunciation jargon comes. They suddenly the pronunciation kills the life in that
Right.
thing. Like if I say, if you give me, like you may have a very good voice, but the pronunciation eats up the...
So you have to work on that again. So there are dictionaries aid you can take.
Or could it be the BBC London News,
If you want British accent.
if you want British accent?
Yeah, that's right. If you want American, you listen to something else.
Voice of America.
So the point is what you want. Huh? But that is not see, there is an understanding about certain pronunciation as long as you pronounce those words, and the ones you don't know, you can ask somebody who does speak those words. It will be the easiest way to do. Huh? All right, anything else? Anybody? Good, we'll break for coffee. All right, welcome back. There are some more questions that surfaced during the coffee break, some common concerns. One is memory. Lots of people ask me about bettering memory. Actually, people always say I don't have good memories. Everybody has very good memory. The question is, are you using it? Have you trained it? Have you put some effort into training it? That's the only question. Because all of you have the apparatus somewhere in your brain, temporal lobe, hippocampus, where it is there. But most people don't use it, and then they don't put the effort. There are three very, very important things about memory. One is attention and interest. Two, reception. Three, recall. Retention and reception, and three, recall. See, it's important that you can recall at the right time, otherwise the memory is no good. You see, I may know 10,000 stories, but if it doesn't come to me at the right time, then they're useless. So it's interest, then your reception and retention, and three, recall when necessary. These are the important factors. Now, one simple exercise I suggest to all of you for bettering your memory. This is one of the easiest things you can do, which will also sharpen your awareness plus better your memory in 1 month's time. And that is, you don't have to even write it. It's so simple. You don't have to write it. And it's so simple, people don't do it. Because people like to do complicated things. Honest to God, education has made things so complicated. Somebody tells you to do simple things, you don't do it. It's like reading the same paragraph for 30 days, people don't do it. The memory, simple thing you can do is every morning when you wake up, say you woke up at 7 o'clock. So 7:30, you close your eyes for 30 seconds or so and go over everything you did from 7 to 7:30 in your mind in vivid detail. And do this every half an hour throughout the day for 1 month. 7 to 7:30, 7:30 to 8, again close your eyes and go over everything you did for about 30 seconds. Again 8:30, 9, 9:30 and so on till you go to bed. And you will notice a remarkable difference in your memory at the end of 30 days. Unconditionally guaranteed.
But whole day you'll have to be doing this.
That is correct.
Every half an hour.
Every half an hour.
First few hours it's easy.
Yes. It works, right?
First few hours
It's easy, yes. Then it works.
after that then
Yeah. But if,
forget it.
Will that condition our brain to develop memory?
yes. You will start using it. See, it will use the faculty. You bring it into your awareness. Most of the time your memory is bad because it has not registered.
You're not attentive.
Yeah, and when you are not attentive, the things don't register. When you start going over it, you will have to cultivate a habit. You will start putting some efforts into it, so it will start registering. You see? The simplest thing. Okay, now just what I'd like you to do now, for example, names. Now it's easy to remember if you put some effort into it. So what we're going to do, one by one you're going to come up here and say your name, just the one first name only, every person.
My name?
Just pay attention, your name, yes.
Arun.
All right. So just that you see the face, I'm going to ask you to write them all down afterwards. I tell you beforehand. All right.
Asha. Shell.
If you can't hear it, ask for the person to repeat it.
Beneath.
Is it Vinit or Vinit?
B.
Hemant.
In Bengali,
Duru.
Devashish. Dev Ashish.
Ashish.
Yeah.
Krishna.
Krishna. Famous Krishna.
Ram. Hey.
Hey Ram,
Krishna Ram put it together.
Ram Kumar.
Jyoti.
Sandeep.
Padmanabh.
Sorry, I couldn't get it.
Padmanabh.
Jaipal. 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 Jaipal.
Jaipal.
J-I-P-A. How do you spell it? J-A-I-P-A. Now they're ready.
yeah, it's up to you what you want to do with it.
Deepak. Shardul. Can you tell us what it means?
What does Shardul mean?
Cub.
Come. C-U-B. It's a Sanskrit word.
Samir.
From that there is the meter in Sanskrit, Shardul Vikridit.
Krishna.
Pradeep.
Shri.
What?
Shri. Pramod. Gurunath.
Second.
Repeat please.
Gurunath.
Matul.
Hariharan.
Pramod.
Mustafa.
Anybody missing? Good. Arun, tell us all. Get up in front of the room quickly.
Okay. Deepak. Shardul, I lost. Samir, Krishnan, Asha, Shyam, Vinit, Hemant, Duru, Devashis, Ashish, Krishna, Ram Kumar, Jyoti Sandip, Padmanabhan, Jaipal, Pradeep, Shri, Pramod, Gurunath Tendulkar, Pradeep, Atul. I lost. Hariharan, Pramod, Mustafa.
Good.
Good. Jyoti.
Deepak, Shardul, Samir, Krishnan, Asha, Arun, Shyam, Dinesh, Hemant, Duru, Devashish, Ashish, Krishnan, Ramkumar, Sandeep, Padmana, Jaipal. Someone told me, Padmana. Pradeep, Shri, Pramod, Gurunath, Atul, Hariharan. Last one is Mustafa, Pramod. Pramod Hassan.
You can do it. Huh? Deepak, quickly. He was hoping I wouldn't call.
Shardul, Samir, Krishnan, Arun, Asha, Shyam, Vinit.
One of the Mosums.
I've been together, I'm very poor at it. Guru, Hemant, sorry. Hemant, Guru.
It's not Guru.
No.
It rhymes. Pras mara se Deepak bhai.
Devashish, Ashish, Krishna, Rama.
Two gods together. Bhabhi Jada. Bhabhi Jada. What a cop out. Keva Bhabhi par?
Badda Bhabhi kahiye. Sandeep, Padmanabh, Jyoti.
Jyoti behan kahan thi kya Bhabhi mat?
Padmanabh, Gupta.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to recoup my mind.
I guess.
Doctor, yes. Shri Pramod. I'm very poor.
But check it. Put some effort into
Your
it.
good name, sir? Pradeep. Pradeep, Shri, Pramod, again, Gurunath.
Start saying I'm poor. Just check it out. Stop apologizing.
I'm going to try tomorrow,
Don't?
starting tomorrow.
Okay. Today is a good day. God rested. You should.
Well, I just explained to our group that I'm poor on this line and I'm going to try, but I'm still poor.
Stop trying.
Yeah,
Stop
I will
trying.
try.
Do it.
Atul, Hariharan, Pramod, and Mustafa.
That's good. Yeah. 3 or 4 you missed. All right, so what I'm suggesting, you can do it if you put that. So right now, you were all looking, paying attention because you knew you were going to ask of you. If you have the same concern every time you want to remember something, you'll remember. That's the difference. You see, that's the difference. Because otherwise you don't put all your mind into such a thing all the time. And if you invest the energy, you get the results. It's very simple. It's not complicated at all.
But now it had formed a pattern. I mean, if the same people sit differently.
Different will still will work.
Can we do that?
Yes.
Can we do that?
Yes.
How much surname? In my mind, at least, after I'm forgetting.
Just keeping your face the other way around. Can you repeat over 30 minutes?
Can I try?
Without looking at their face.
Without looking, I look that side.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that is a pattern.
No, but you have that pattern in your
I understand that, yeah. Which is not bad, it's a good technique to work with for a start. You know?
Deepak, Shardul, Sami, Krishnan, Arun, Asha, Shyam, Benny, Heman, Guru, Debashish, Ashish, Krishnan, yes, Ramkumar, Jyoti, Sandeep, Jaypal, Padmanath, Pradeep, Shri, Pramod, Gurunath, Atul, Pramod, and Mustafa.
That's good. What I'm saying is you can do it if you put your mind to it. It's a question of just doing that. Deepak, you get it? First thing you must do is change the premise that I'm bad at remembering. Stop saying that sentence and stop apologizing.
I'm not apologizing.
No, when I'm saying I'm sorry, you stand like this helplessly, like somebody hurt you. No, this was your body, yes, sir. Please help. Stop doing it. Huh?
And if I don't remember, I just ask.
Precisely.
Wonderful. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
See, what you're playing is a role.
Yeah.
That please help me. It's a victim role if you want to put a label on it. It's I'm sorry.
Victimized.
Yeah. It's just take responsibility for it. As like an adult says, please tell me your name. It's escaped me. Simple. Take the responsibility for doing it. I guarantee you next time you come here, you will be a different person.
I do normally ask them, but
Right.
here I didn't want to. I just wanted to test my memory.
Okay. That's good. All right. So that's the simplest thing. All right, to do it. Just put your attention, as an energy you invested here, if you invest the same energy in remembering, that's always there. You will remember it. All right? Now, that brings us to, we were on topic 9 yesterday, if you recall in your manual. Are you all there? We talked about different types of suggestion. We talked about the ways of planting suggestion. There are other important factors in making your communication, and that is repetition. As you heard, people started remembering, by repetition. Reinforcement. Every time you're good, people clap, you feel good. That's reinforcement. So next time you're going to put more effort. It's a positive reward. That's a reinforcement. When you're talking to people in communication, use the audience's imagination. Utilize the vocabulary that the audience is familiar with. Use the words, the metaphors which the audience is aware of. Say if somebody comes to me from a village in India and says, I tell him, imagine you are standing on an Empire State Building. And he looks at me and says, what are you talking about? Because that's not part of his imagery. If I tell him instead, or if I ask him, I say, well, how is your village like? He said, there's a beautiful river flowing by. I say, imagine you sitting by the river. So then he can identify, he can relate with that particular image. So when you're talking to people, be aware about the other person's background. And that will stop you also from using jargon. You see? But if you're talking to a medical person, use his language. If you talk to a management consultant, you talk his language. Because every profession, as I pointed out yesterday, has a set of words which are used in that particular profession. All right? So allow time for response to take place. Also spend time, be patient about it. Don't expect, some people, like Sandeep, pushing it all the time. He says, I won't look at my digital watch and go by the seconds, So you can get rid of the watch for a change. Okay, that brings us to topic 9, which is what you're interested in. Topic 10, next page. The language of the body. See, in verbal communication, the unit of communication is a word. In non-verbal, it is a single gesture. Now the word takes on a meaning depending on the context. Is that correct? You know, like yesterday, Devashish asked whether certain gesture means something, shaking of the head left and right means something in Calcutta and it means something in South India, and that's the problem. So for body language, there are two specific things I want you to bear in mind. There are some gestures which are universal and some gestures which are cultural. That's the first and foremost thing I want to impress on you. So you have to be aware of these differences. Some gestures which are universal and some gestures which are cultural. Initially what I suggest you do is to learn to observe before learning to interpret. See, if you start interpreting right away, you might be misled. So learn to observe. Now all of you have this ability right from day one of your life, ability to observe. What has happened? In the process of growing up, you have unlearned this. A little kid, a little child is a much better observer than an adult. As a matter of fact, subliminal ads, which might be a new word for some of you, so let me spell it and give you the meaning of it. Subliminal comes from Latin, means to beyond the threshold of consciousness. That's what the word means. Beyond the threshold of consciousness, subliminal. And there are ads like this used. To give you an example, okay, so Samir will be relaxed, Sandeep will be relaxed. All right, give you an example of it. Few years back, I'm talking about 15 years ago, Chivas Regal Scotch, you know, it's a premium Scotch, carried one-page ad in Time magazine. At that time, the cost of one-page ad, one shot, was about $64,000. It must be much more right now. Before they put this one-page ad, they had a marketing research done, which they spend a lot of money doing just that. After which, they spend this $64,000 to put one-page ad. Now you'll think that if they put one-page ad, they would write a whole lot of things in it. There was only one sentence on the whole page. The page was a little page of Time magazine. There was this Chivas Regal Scotch here, picture of it, with the wrapper lying innocuously by the side. Because if you have seen Chivas Regal bottle, it's wrapped in tissue paper like thing, then put into a box. You know, so you pay extra for the tissue paper. So which is lying here, and then there is a bottle. The one sentence simply read, something like this: if you do not serve Chivas Regal to your friends. Now if you remember the principle I spoke about, negative suggestions have opposite effect. Remember I said do not think of a giraffe, what comes in your mind? Giraffe. Do not think of an elephant, what is planted? An elephant. So they use this principle that if you do not serve Chivas Regal to your friends, they will not think less of you. Huh? You see, so the idea is planted, you start becoming, oh my God, they will not think less of you, and then they reinforced it by a positive suggestion. But if you do serve Chivas Regal to your friends, they will definitely think more of you. You see it? Now one more thing. This in itself does not make it subliminal. This is just they are playing with the communication aspect of the. What made it really subliminal was that their marketing research pointed out that the people who used Chivas Regal Scotch or had it in their houses or homes also had a cheaper brand of Scotch which they served to the people whom they did not consider their friends. And that in North America, the archetype, now one more word which might be new for some of you, it's a Carl Gustav Jung used this, archetype, which means which has universal appeal within that culture. Any symbol, like in cow is in an archetype in Hindu mythology, or in Hinduism. Dog in America symbolizes loyalty and friendship. They found that these people also had a dog, and that the idea was that symbolized friendship. So in this wrapper that they had innocuously lying by the side, they had superimposed pictures of dog. And they tested this ad on a little child, children rather, and the children will look at it and say, there's a dog here. He said, oh, come on, that's just a piece of paper. What are you talking about? Because children saw this, because they are much more observant, and so subliminally it registered in the adult subconscious also. And I believe by their own admission, this one-page, one-time ad gave them $1.5 million. Sham, you had a comment.
Yeah, there's also another scotch or whatever supplier. They use the same thing, except all they had on their page was their name and a glass with ice cubes in it, with their drink in it. And the ice cubes were all shaped differently. And then a marketing engineer shaped them in a certain way.
To spell sex or something.
No. So each different person, like all of us in the room, if we like dogs the most, we would see a dog in those ice cubes. Or if we liked houses, a pretty house, you'd see a pretty house in this thing. And they got caught and they had to pay a fine.
Yeah, because the consumers, defense union has now certain regulations passed against it. Because in certain glasses they had the ice cube spelled sex, and there was a book written about it called Subliminal Seduction by Dr. Wilson Bryan Key, K-E-Y. Subliminal Seduction. Does it explain it, Sandeep? I just, the grimace on your face is what's threatening to me. So I do something about it right away. All right. What a body language. Your face is such like an open book. Right. Okay. So we are on topic 10. Gesture, the language of the body. So two things, as I say, you have to be aware of. One is some gestures are cultural, some are universal. And secondly, initially learn to observe instead of interpreting. And as I said, children are much more observant. I gave you this example. Now, the body language, whenever there is a conflict between a verbal message and a non-verbal message, people intuitively will accept the non-verbal message. I give you that example in my humble opinion thing, But please be aware, look at the total body. Now, one of the oldest lie detectors used in China some 5,000 years ago was when they were questioning the suspects. The suspects were given fistful of rice to keep in their mouth. After the questioning was over, they were supposed to spit out the rice. If the rice was dry, the Chinese concluded that the person was lying. Because the Chinese believed that saliva dries out when you lie. And I tell you something interesting. Even the most modern machine, a lie detector, polygraph, is based on the same principle, which is the changes in physiological reaction. It measures three things: respiratory changes, perspiration, that is the parasympathetic nervous system, and your heartbeat, the autonomic nervous system. It measures the difference in these three systems. And they ask you questions. The key is how you phrase the question. Remember yesterday I pointed out the art is in asking the question. See, they condition you, and we're going to do a little exercise in a minute. They have a file on the person whom they are questioning, of course. They know exactly whole his life history. The police have done the job, and they got a whole dossier on the person. So the person who does the interviewing for lie detector, the person is hooked and wired up with all these, things, and then there's a graph measuring all these responses. So but before that, they have to establish the baseline or the mean. So what they ask you, is your name Krishna? So they know it is his name. So the response is going to be what? Positive. So he says yes. So the machine registers that when the person is telling the truth and the response is yes, this is the line. So they ask a whole bunch of questions to establish that yes as a true response. Then they ask him a question like, do you live at such and such place? And they give some different address which is not his. So he said no, which is still a true answer. True answer, but the response is no, so the machine registers the response. Then they will insert something like this. Have you ever stolen anything like a little kid or something? Now the logic of this guy is that if I say yes, they're going to think that I committed this crime also. So and every one of us has done something in the childhood. You know, the forceps that I talked about yesterday. You know, the cesarean and forceps. So the person, oh no, never. Boom, the machine goes crazy. So they find out what is the response when he's telling a small lie. So they will have the measure against which to compare. So the point is, our body does not lie unless you are a pathological liar, you know, which is a problem, mental disorder sort of a thing, you know, or you are a fine actor, and then you wouldn't be here, you know, you would be in film industry here or Hollywood or somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So the point is that most people, if you observe them carefully, the body gives out all kinds of messages, and the people who studied this basically were the people, not psychologists, but anthropologists. And one of the first books on the subject is by Charles Darwin, The Expression of Emotion in Men and Animals. He wrote. Even the recent bestsellers are also by anthropologists. You know, Desmond Morris wrote Gestures, Man Watching. Then Edward T. Hall, an American anthropologist, Silent Language, and so on. The anthropologists divide the body into three major parts: the head, the torso, and the rest. Any gestures that have anything to do with conceptual or intellectual things, they are around the head area. You forget, what do? You sort of scratch your head, huh? If you are questioning something, this is the kind of thing you will do, you know, sort of a skeptic gesture. You know, I was in Madras and there was a guy in the front row, and I said, when you're questioning something, this is the, he's doing this, is this really true? he's scratching his nose like this, and at the same time asking me. I said, please freeze. I said, what was your question? He said, is this really true what you're saying? And I said, what are you doing when you're asking me this question? You know, and he said, this is precisely what I'm doing with the gesture of doubting. Now, one more thing which I want you to be aware of, and that is, so you have to find out the context. See, the word also, like the word ball. I threw a ball, takes one meaning. We went to a ball, it takes another meaning. You know, we had a ball, takes third meaning. So how you utilize the context decides the meaning. So if it's very cold and somebody is putting his hands in his pocket, you know, it might be a gesture that he's withholding warmth. Because generally, hands in the pocket means you are withholding something. If you are talking to somebody, like, you know, Henry Kissinger came back from Paris talk and people said, newspaper, what are your comments? We have no comments at this time. You know, and he puts his hand in the pocket. So that is one thing. So you have to monitor how the person responds as you are talking to him. Say you're saying something and suddenly he leans back and crosses his arms and legs, then you might think twice about what you said. But if he's sitting like this all the time, then your job is to sort of, that is his posture, you have to do something to relax him or something. Because the most defensive gesture is crossing of the legs and crossing of the arms. This is the most defensive gesture. Now I'm talking to somebody, the person is eagerly listening. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, really? And then suddenly I said something. And he becomes like this, leans back, crosses his arms and legs. Then it's my job to observe that, oh, something I said. So I have to retrace. The key is that you retrace. And before you do something else, you must be aware of his body language, that you have to change it. If you continue on what you were saying, that person has already switched off, like a management consultant.
And I have a question here. You said about gestures is, then how do you differentiate it with, like, there's a built-in style, you know?
Yes.
Like I would say from I am. I'll just demonstrate it to you. It's a very unique thing where we are taught. Like when you're talking to the audience, and they have a thing that if you have a board, there's a lot of leaning done by this I am people. If I'm talking to you, I want to impress you. If there's more lady audience, the style is more unique. Now that is a gesture that is, he is
Learn.
using it.
Yeah.
It's not his natural thing.
Right.
Now, how do you evaluate that?
Okay, because if some gesture is not normal, the audience feels it something is not right about it. Because
Like whenever he talks,
yeah.
like for example, whenever Rushi talks, he's got a fixed gesture.
Right.
I see him whenever he talks it that way. Like to the audience, he'll always stand that way. So you accept him.
Right.
The day he doesn't stand, there's something wrong.
Questioning, yeah.
So, but it is not his gesture. He has mentally planned it out.
Okay, if he has rehearsed it well, he might succeed. If he has not, you know, what will happen, the audience will notice that something is unusual about him. They will have that feeling, they might not be articulate.
The rehearsal part is your sort of tune in.
That is
and
right.
then it becomes a part of you.
Part of you.
And what becomes unnatural is when he is normal.
Right. Because he has become so much familiar with the role that his individual self is lost in there, he's forgotten.
So that is the loss of individuality.
That's right. That's why I suggest you never do it. All right? Because, see, people feel it. So, for example, this is the gesture, stippling is a gesture of confidence. You know, if you've seen people, executives and sitting like this, presidents and so on. But just because you know this, and if you're playing a hand of poker or a flash or something, and you want people to think that you got a good hand and you do this, something else will happen. No, because the totality is where the meaning comes from, not one particular gesture. You see? So you have to be aware of it. Then the audience feels it. Don't ever, as I say, underestimate your audience. That's the first principle I talked about yesterday. Never underestimate the intelligence of people. People are quite smart, even if they are not management consultants. And they know somebody is not, putting on an act, they feel it. They might not be articulate or about why they feel it that way. They say, oh, something about him bothered me. It's an inarticulate statement, but they have that feeling and they will go by that feeling in their reaction to that person.
Are these gestures generally standardized for all individuals?
No.
See, gestures, as I said, some are universal, which means you do not have any control. This body takes over. Which means if you want really to change your body, to change the gestures, you have to change your attitude. That's the key. If you look at your notes, just a couple of points. Dr. Desmond Morris had talked about, frequently the human animal is unaware of his actions, which makes them all the more revealing. He concentrates so hard on his words that he seems to forget that his movements, postures, and expressions are telling their own story. You see? All right. What are we going to do now? Is take a piece of paper out. I want you to write out. Now pay attention to the instruction. I want you to write out 5 questions to a person, doesn't matter who that person is, sitting in this group, where the answer, you can fill in the gaps, like, is your name Arun? So just question that you will write down, that is your name Arun? And the answer will be yes. Are you wearing this particular color shirt or sari? Yeah? So write down 5 questions right now where the answer will be yes when the person responds to it. Do it now. Doesn't matter what those questions are. But you have to know beforehand that the answer will be yes, and that's important.
You have to observe the person.
Yeah, so you will fill in the gaps at that time. Right now just phrase the question, the format. Don't go by assumption. In one class, one guy says, are you married? The guy said no. He had expected the guy to say yes. No, which was an assumption on his part. The guy looked old enough, so the guy assumed. So don't go by assumptions. Go by the facts, the things that you know to be facts. Once you finish writing down 5 questions which have the answers yes. Now phrase 5 questions where the answers are no. Who is not finished? The ones who are not finished, please get up.
5 negative questions or both?
For both. Ones who are not finished, please get up. Leave the room. Just a second. Just a second, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many are we here? About 25. Huh? 27.
Yeah.
Huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Half of them I want to leave. So which means 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. That's too many. 12. 13 people leave the room. So, so you sit down. Rest of you leave the room. Out of the earsight. With the notes here. Now for the other people who are here. Now, out.
Do we complete our work here?
Yeah, sure, but get out of this room. Okay, now what I want you to do, hold it folks, listen. Okay. Now all of you here, the half of the class that is, you have written 5 questions where the answer is yes and 5 questions you know before and answer will be no. Is that correct? Huh? Now what I want you to do, when those people come in, you will pair up. You know, one will take one of those people. What your job is, to ask the question which is yes answer, observe the person carefully. When he answers yes, what are his body movements? Huh? Are you with me? What are his body movements? And say just when he says yes, lean forward towards him at all times. When you anticipate, what you're doing is conditioning him to think yes when you're leaning forward towards him. Are you with me? Okay. Say you already know what the answer is going to be. Huh? So when you're asking him yes question, you say, are you really, Padmanabhan or something, So he says yes. At that time you're leaning forward. So you know the answer is yes. Your body is in proximity to his body at that time. So what you've done is observing him, what are his body gestures when he's saying yes, plus you are also leaning forward, conditioning him. Huh? Then you ask him the question. You alternate the question. Then you ask him the question, the answer is no. So you lean back and he says, is your name Pravesh? And he's going to say no. And you're leaning away. So his yes is associated with you leaning forward. His no is associated with your leaning backwards. Are you clear so far? Now what? Is that clear? And you alternate the question. So you observe him, what are his movements, and then what I want you to do now, which is a little more difficult, write down 6 questions where the answer to which even he doesn't know, nobody can know, but the answer could be yes or no.
Could you give an example?
Okay. Say,
will you divorce your wife? Very simple.
He might say yes, so that's an assumption. All right?
I'm not married.
Okay, or something like that, right? But that's something like that. That you will say, are there, is the Oberoi, this hotel, does it have 3 layers down or something? Or did you, when you came here, were there 18 cars outside? And there were not 18 cars this morning when you came in. So answer will be?
I don't know.
No, you tell him first that you have to say yes or no only. But then ask him questions. Say, did they find a man on the moon? But this is already known. So think of questions where the answer even he may not know. Do you believe in Loch Ness monster or something? So he will have yes or no answer, correct? But when you're expecting a particular answer, if you want yes answer for him, lean forward. If you want no answer from him, lean backwards. Just see what the effect of that is. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It's your gesture which makes the...
That is right. I want you to influence his answer by your gesture, the way you have conditioned him. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Ask him 6 questions, which he don't know the answer.
Right. But the answer could be yes or no. Tell him he has to answer in yes or no.
Okay, among the 6 questions, suppose I want the yes answer, I should lean forward and ask.
Right. And suppose you want no answer, and see how much you can influence that person in that sense. But the question should be so absurd that he does not know the answer, so don't get caught.
Okay.
Are you with me? Write down 6 such questions.
You should not know the answer.
He shouldn't.
Rely on instinct.
Yes, right. But tell him the answer he has to answer in yes or no. Instruct him before you start asking. And then lean forward the way you like. Lean forward or backward. And be aware of what you're doing and what answer you get from him.
Now, the first questions we have written about certain person. He's not there. I mean, he may not be in that group.
The same person you have to ask, no?
The same person that you have conditioned. You're going one by one. You will work with the same person all the way through.
No, I mean, the first 5 questions which we have written down is of a particular person.
So this question will be the same with all 10 questions are with the same person.
But if the person is sitting here now already?
No, they are about a particular person. So change the question, for God's sake.
I see.
Yeah. That's why I told you to keep it general so it could apply to anybody. Make it, if he's not wearing specs, are you wearing specs? So the answer will be no. In the yes no question. I just wanted to get the feel of it.
It's not an easy job.
Yes, it isn't.
You would normally know the answers to the question. I mean, did you believe? I mean, did they find a man on the moon? I mean, if he knows that they didn't find.
Then they shouldn't know the answer.
Yeah, they should.
They should not know the answer of the question you are asking. Go ahead.
But yes and no.
You know where it is.
A yes and no answer would be pretty easy. I mean, it's either yes or no.
Can you ask him like this? Like, do you like imported cars?
Right, or something like that.
He'll say no.
But
he might say yes.
He might say yes also. You don't know that.
Okay.
Right?
Do I have a sister?
Can
I ask him, do I have a sister?
No.
Right, that he will know the answer. Right, so all he has to answer is yes and no. Precisely. Do I have a sister? Good.
So if I don't have a sister, I just lean back and ask him, do I have a sister?
Right.
If I have a sister, I just say, do I have a sister?
No, you can influence him any which way. It doesn't have to do with the facts. Right? Your job is only to elicit the response you want. That's the purpose. Not that you are getting the right response. The purpose is I want you to be familiar with his body language and what your body language does to him. Are you finished?
You can get all the complete, your approach might even flop.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might do all your questions leaning front, but he'll say no also.
Yeah, that's possible, yes. The point is that I want you to be aware of it.
But you think only these 5 questions will be enough to condition him?
Well, let's see it. Be creative. Come on, do it fast. Can I get those in?
No one.
Do we import 1,500 crores of the diamond every 3 months? Ask it. India, does India, He doesn't know generally, right?
So you have to write this down.
You get it?
Creativity.
And you have to sit face to face with that person, It's important. Okay, I'm getting them, all right? Come on, you can think of the question while you're talking. Be creative, you'll be fast. Jairam, get those people here. Okay, find one person and pair up somewhere. Get up. Okay, I'll tell them it will be easier to pair up with you.
should sit and interview.
Yeah, face to face.
But how do you lean and?
Well, get a chair out of there. All right, all of you pair up with one of these people.